Who do you think Mercedes is going to have next to Max Verstappen?
I think that question depends on how cruel Toto Wolff wants to be. So, Toto Wolff is going to go down in history as one of the cruelest people in Formula One, but also one of the most successful. Does he want to be cruel to a kid, or does he want to be cruel to a grown up who he has grown up?
With,
I,
yeah.
no, he has grown George Russell up in Formula One terms. He
Yeah, yeah.
has, like, right from Formula Two, taking him to Williams. You all know the story. We don't need to reiterate it. How cruel will he be? I think legacy does not play a role in Toto Wolff's decision. Do you think so?
No, I don't think so. He's got to be pragmatic about it. And these are decisions made with not too much of heart, but a lot of mind and a lot of focus and surety. There will be people in Mercedes advising Toto Wolff as well. So while he will make the decision, there will be people who will weigh in on their choices.
Uh, Any other podcast in the world will just tell you a driver and tell you why or what. I think we at the Inside Line love to go deeper and offer more perspective. So let's ask the question, on what basis will Toto Wolff decide whether he wants to go to George or Kimi? What are his parameters?
I would say his parameters are going to be based on how sure he is of Krishna's here. Hello, Krishna. But yeah, I would say his parameters are going to be based on how sure he is of his package in 2026. Okay. He knows that he's probably got the best lineup on the grid with Max and Russell out there. Okay. And I would say deep down inside, that just sounds like the best lineup Mercedes should have. Mercedes put Kimi there because they wanted to test him, but also because they knew that we don't have a good car this year. So whatever it is that we do, can we bed Kimi into Formula One and then reap benefits? But that said, Toto will not leave a driver in the lurch, as we saw with Esteban Ocon, with Valtteri Bottas, with Mick Schumacher.
Yeah.
I think whichever driver that it may be, and like Krishna is saying, maybe loaning Kimi to Alpine for 2 years will work for everybody. And I think that could possibly be one of those situations that we could see happen as well, because it's like Carlos Sainz had to make way for Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. Well, Kimi Antonelli might have to make way for Max Verstappen at Mercedes. And, it's just a situation. Would any team principal not want to sign Max Verstappen
Yeah.
in his prime? I think even Frederick Vasseur, if he was offered the opportunity, we'd have a Max versus Lewis at Ferrari. That's my
Yeah.
that's my feeling.
I think only time that it wouldn't happen is when Jean Todt and Ross Brawn were at the helm at Ferrari, because they were so clear that this is our number one. He spent all this time with us. He's been the one rallying the team around. We can't put anyone else. And Ferrari had the chance to sign some really good drivers. Mercedes now have the prime of Max Verstappen, clearly. To answer my own question and to build on what you said, you're right. I think it depends on how good 2026 should be for them, and also on how strong the competition is. I think that's one of the reasons why Toto Wolff will go one way or the other. And that's why I feel Max and George is going to be their pairing for 26, because Formula One is as close as it has ever been. Like, what is it? 6 tenths between P1 and P18 the last weekend at Silverstone in Q1? Sure, it might be bigger because in the new regulation season, these gaps are exacerbated. But I suppose that's when you need your driver even more so to close up on the gaps that already exist. And in that case, if I'm a team principal, which I'm not, but if I am a team principal, I just want to go for the very best. And a lot of you might be thinking, will it work out? Two alphas in one team. How does it work out? They've had history in the past. One famously said to the other that they want to put their head on the wall upside down. Like, sure, but it's very clear, Kunal. Formula One has proven time and time again that emotions have to sit aside when there is money to be made and championships to be won.
Absolutely. I think, Russell versus Verstappen and Mercedes would probably not be as difficult for Max to handle, or Toto to handle, as, say, Rosberg versus Hamilton that happened for 14, 15, 16, those 3 seasons. And, well, if you're a
Because
racing team,
to add
yeah,
to that, also because Max is secure. At that time, Lewis and Nico both weren't. So
yeah. And Toto's learned from it. They've moved on. It's almost 10 years since Nico Rosberg actually won the world championship as well. Time flies. But my point also is that, listen, you don't build a really super fast car and then say I'm not going to put the two best drivers because they will kill each other on track and I won't be able to handle it. No, there will be situations, and you're just supposed to have frameworks, have what was the word they had? They had an engagement agreement, right? They had
Engagement
rules of
agreement.
engagement. That's what they call it at Mercedes. And you just make sure that the drivers fall in line. And then of course, uh, I think I think the two drivers at McLaren are just very goody goody with each other, and they sort of fall in line. But that doesn't mean that Max is the type who will fall in line. But I would, the counter thought to this is, if you've got a Kimi and you really think he's good, wouldn't it be amazing to have Kimi next to Max Verstappen, learning from Max Verstappen, while sort of officially passing on the baton? So it's a difficult to call situation, but I'll pick on something you said: how quick the car is and how good the competition is. Because whatever you say, Ferrari and Lewis and Leclerc, great combo. They are
Mm.
second in the constructors championship this year without having won a race. Why? Because both drivers are scoring points. Okay. Next year, if the Mercedes power unit is the class of the field as it is expected to be, Alpine will be having that unit, Williams will be having that unit, McLaren is going to have that unit as well. So
Oh.
if Mercedes knows that they have to go up against some of their own customer teams, they need two of their best drivers there. So I think the next few races we will see it's Max's half home race in Spa, well, as is Lando Norris, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because some they've got lineages everywhere. Hungaroring is, I would say, my home race. I love Budapest, and then we just come to Sunfoot after that. So we will probably see a lot of these things moving up. But yeah, in the short term, maybe George versus Russell. Sorry, George versus Max Verstappen. My goodness, and then the best driver actually stays on till whenever Kimi's getting ready to go back to Mercedes.
Yeah, this is where I agree with Krishna. But I think we're both in agreement, Kunal and I. I think Max and George for Mercedes 2026. It makes sense. And I'll also go to why George. And this is when we move on to Red Bull Racing, because we obviously have to answer the question of how do you fill the void that Max Verstappen leaves. But why George is also because you can't let a driver of the caliber of George Russell slip away that easily. He's an asset. He's an asset to any team he goes to. And imagine if he lands up at the competition. Things have happened before, but knowing Toto Wolff and how he treats drivers and when he lets them go, yeah, he probably wouldn't let that happen. Like Michael, because he retired. Valtteri, end of value. George was picked up right when he was at his peak, at his prime. I don't think he's going to drop him that easily.